Hey, everybody, welcome to this month's issue of Staffing Monthly, which is the industry's exclusive digital magazine that focuses on bringing you actionable insights with recruiting, marketing, sales, and leadership in mind. And today we are taking a deep dive into leadership, but also operational excellence. And I have somebody here with me today that is not only a rising star in the staffing industry, but really transcendent in working with leaders of many different industries to transform their organizations and perform at a higher level and deliver more value to their clients, which is where we're going to focus today. This is actually my friend, Therese Gopaul-Robinson, and she has been in the staffing industry in the healthcare sector for quite some time and has a lot of experience leading organizations, transforming organizations. And she herself is on this transcendent journey where she has evolved to now coaching the highest level of leadership in many different industries. So Therese, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here with Staffing Monthly today.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan, for having me. I'm so excited to jump into this with you today. This is great. Thank you for having me.
I am glad to have you here because I want to learn from you because I don't know if you caught last month's issue of Staffing Monthly, but we did a deep dive into healthcare because this is a segment of staffing that has really been hit in a slightly different way than the rest of
Yeah.
the industry.
hmm
And that's why I
hmm
wanted to get you in here and pick your brain because you coach so many staffing organizations as well as others, but
Yeah.
on how to meet the moment, right?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So here is the one thing, and it's a big thing that I want to discuss with you today. I would love to hear from you as if you're talking to the leader of a healthcare staffing organization. What is the one thing that they should prioritize or most focus on this year to improve their operations so they can deliver more value to their healthcare staffing clients?
That's a really good question, and I'm curious to see what you think of my answer. So, what I would love us to focus on is empowering our leadership teams so that they can better navigate uncertain times. And when I say that, I think when we use that word empower, a lot of us may go quickly to, okay, so what does that mean? A retreat? What are we talking about when we say empower? And yes, sign me up for a retreat, but that's not what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
No, yes, sign me up. But that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm really more so talking about leaning in on some of those skills that our leaders need in the staffing space to drive productivity amongst their teams. So, and we can get more into it, but kind of coming out of the gate, I'm thinking about the fact that when I work with a lot of my clients, I see that we're still leading teams that are extremely siloed,
Hmm.
and we are leading teams that are not educated in terms of staffing trends and really what's happening in the staffing industry. We're very kind of tunnel vision when it comes to that. We show up, we're at our desk, we're making our phone calls, we are doing the reach outs, we're doing the activity, but we're not really sure how that activity aligns with truly what's happening in the industry. So empowering these leadership teams to better navigate these uncertain times by showing them how to use data, showing them what the trends are so that they can show their teams how to strategically position themselves. So
Okay.
that's a
So
very long answer.
it is, and there's a lot to unpack there, and I want to get
Yeah,
into a few of those points. So
sure.
I share the same observation. I think a lot of the producers are kind of, I don't want to use this term in a negative way, but stuck at desk level, and
Yes.
they're put there. Do you think there's any other reason than just people are buried in their work right now that silos are being created in organizations?
Well, I think it really kind of starts at the top. And I think we are very buried and we are constantly trying to figure out the fastest, most efficient way to get to goal. We're trying to, stay competitive. So we're not necessarily focusing on growing and educating the folks internally because we're so focused on what's happening, who's doing what. Oh, AI, okay, we have to incorporate AI. Oh, efficient. Okay, we need to be more efficient. Okay, there's this new thing, I need to grab a hold of those things. And we're not focusing truly on how do we kind of quiet that noise like kind of shut that noise out and
Yeah.
look internally to boost that performance amongst those team members. And so, yes, we are overwhelmed and we are stuck at desk level, but it doesn't have to be that way. It really, we can really position our team and our leaders in a way that they feel more ownership and they feel more control over what happens on a daily basis.
Interesting. What do you
Mhm.
think what do you think the trade-off is? Because we're in this very reactive mode. I feel like
Sure.
the pandemic was a mad rush, really
Yes.
uncertain times. People kind of, I think most of us hit burnout, and then you go into the post-pandemic industry slide, and no one
Yeah.
really had a chance to recover from that. So now everyone's just kind of rush, 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 more, more automation, more AI. Let's rush to the finish
Yeah.
line. What do you think is the long-term trade-off for what's happening right now?
I think if we don't make some shifts really quickly, we are going to see a lot of organizations not be successful. We're going to see a lot of people maybe moving out of the staffing industry altogether because we're constantly running behind. At least that's the feeling that I see amongst my clients. We're constantly trying to run behind, trying to keep up with all of these trends. So if we don't make some shifts now, we will find that the companies that exist today probably will not. And we'll find that we're going to lose a lot of talented people to other industries doing other things because there's only so much more of this we can take unless we really figure out how do we what do we have to do right now to make that shift. We're kind of like at this like fork in the road kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so what are some things that we need to do to shift so that we can not just stay afloat but actually be profitable and successful and hold on to this incredible talent that we have. And we do have incredible talent. It's
Yeah.
just really have we positioned them in a way to be successful. And I think collectively the answer probably is no.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think for some reason our industry is not as open or supportive of training and learning and development
Yes.
models. And
Yes. And
yeah,
I think it's because of what you said. We're all trying to move so fast. And what I see is, if I am, and I say this so much, if I'm successful as a recruiter, as an individual contributor, I am like a rock star as a recruiter. What tends to happen is, okay, Therese, we're going to now make you the director of recruiting. And so then that way you can make a bunch of mini Thereses, and then they're all going to be rock stars. And what we forget is the skill set that makes me a rock star recruiter may not translate over to making me a great leader. It's a different skill set. I can certainly be there, I can certainly get there, but it requires some development. It requires some intentionality. It cannot just be that we take this really great salesperson and make them the leader of sales. It's not the same thing because as the skill set that makes you great at sales tends to be very, very much about me and my client,
yeah,
not so much about us and what we can do as a team. It's very different. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different skill set. And so if we're transitioning people into leadership, we have to pause, number one, first ask them, do you want leadership? Because a lot of times we think, well, hey, Dan, you're so great, and I know you want to grow. So let's give you this leadership role. And Dan's going to say, okay, because that sounds like the
yeah,
next right step. But maybe Dan doesn't want leadership. Maybe Dan just wants to continue to be a rock star. So we have to first ask that question, do you want leadership? And if so, why? So
yeah.
that's a big one.
That's the big one right there. Why?
Yeah, why do you want leadership?
Yeah,
Is it because it's more money? What's the motivation behind that? Because when you ask the why, then you can really get down to the true motivators for Dan. And so maybe Dan just wants to make more money. He wants to be in the limelight. Well, okay, well, that's not really leadership. So, how can we maybe keep Dan in his current position, but filling his cup in a way that he continues to be a rock star individual contributor? Maybe we learn from Dan and we apply some of those things into growing other teams. Maybe Dan needs to stay where Dan is.
yeah,
So first ask them if they want leadership before you even move him over. And if he does want it and for the right reasons, then we have to make sure that we have some sort of development plan for Dan because we cannot expect that he's just going to take those skills and just magically become this fantastic leader. we're not born that way. It's a skill set that we have to learn, that someone has to teach us, and that we have to continuously work. It's a muscle that we have to grow and we have to maintain for sure.
Yeah, I think that's spot on because I've seen a lot of companies that do exactly what you just said. They take their rock star person and then they want to
Yeah,
appease them or move them up and they just move them into management. And then when it
yeah,
doesn't work out, like it's hard to unscramble that egg, right? Like you can't
yeah.
put the genie back in the bottle and like move them back down because you can't demote them. So if it doesn't
No,
work out, the next step is moving them out of the company. And now you've actually
right.
set your organization back from a leadership standpoint and you've lost a top producer. And I've kind
Absolutely.
of along your lines, and I want to talk about your blueprint a little bit, but along your lines, I think a lot of people think that a promotion has to almost be like a light switch. Like, okay, you know what, on
Yes.
this date we're going to promote you, and it's this. There's nothing wrong with doing exactly what you just said and saying, hey, do you want to be a leader? Why do you want to be? What do you think that looks like? Because some people have
Yes.
grand illusions about what leadership and management really is, and they don't know the hard
Yeah,
stuff. And but once you get there, say, okay, well, we're going to put together a development plan for you, and we're going to set some
absolutely.
milestones. And when you show a level of comprehension or mastery in some of these skills that we're going to work with
You
you
got
on,
it.
then we'll
Yes.
promote you. And what's nice about this, it gives them another checkpoint after they get a taste for what it might be like or the skills to know, do I really
Yes.
want this or not? Before you make that change that you really can't go back from, right?
Right, exactly, exactly. I've also worked with organizations where what we've done is maybe leadership is not the path,
Right.
but maybe being a consultant is. And what I mean by a consultant is, Dan, you continue to be that rock star recruiter. However, we see why, what are you doing? What are the daily activities? What are the conversations that you're having? What is the plan that you set for yourself every day that gets you to that success? Can you teach us? Can we take that and create some sort of development program for other
Yes.
salespeople or recruiters or whatever? Can you consult? Can we do that? And Dan might jump at that because yeah, I want my teams to be successful, but I kind of want to just do my own thing. So, yes, put me in this consulting role where I can teach you, I can even come in, I can even do some training, I can show you, we can kind of create this blueprint for what great recruiting looks like. And I am telling you, we've done that. And what that does is that keeps Dan extremely engaged in the team, but it keeps him in the seat that he is the happiest. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like we get the best of both worlds. And now we can create all these mini Dans because we've taken some of that and we've developed a program for other recruiters, for newer recruiters coming into the organization or ongoing development for the recruiters that we have in place right now. So we have to become more creative. I think is the key here. And the organizations that I see that are being successful are the ones that have figured out that we can color outside of the lines and it's perfectly okay and
Yeah.
it's beautiful and it's very creative and then we engage those high performers in what we're creating and now we're on a different level because they're going to bring things to the table that I would have never thought of. Dan's going to bring things that I would have never even thought of. And so now we can be very creative of, in terms of how we develop teams and what we really need to do to kind of take our organization to the next level.
I love that analogy about, being okay to color outside the lines because
Yeah.
I do think that unfortunately, to the detriment of our industry, a lot of the agencies take their cues or maybe they create the lines that they're coloring in from what they think a staffing agency is in our industry.
Yes.
And it's the ones that aren't afraid to color outside of the lines and kind of make their own picture, make their
Yes.
artwork that differentiate themselves and they start to look different. And we all know who they are. Like you can go to their
Yeah.
websites, you can see their marketing, you can talk to their
Yeah.
salespeople, and it all just hits differently. And they're like, wow. And they're the ones that the rest of us start looking up to, right? And
Yeah, yeah. And what's so funny is that's one of the questions that I get when I am first working with a client is, so you're out there, Therese. So just tell us, what are other companies doing? What are they doing? And my answer is always, don't worry about what everybody else is
yeah,
doing.
yeah.
What can you do? Because you are unique. You have a unique workforce. You have a unique background, a unique story, unique goals. So let's not worry about what everybody else is doing. And let's focus on what we can create and build as an organization here that is very unique to you. What does that look like? And so that's always kind of like an uncomfortable conversation initially because people really just want to know, Therese, you get to work with all these, tell like, what's the secret? Tell me. It's like, there is no secret.
Yeah.
There is no secret. Let's just focus on what we can do together as an organization to kind of, position ourselves in the industry.
It's like I will tell everyone right now. Here's a spoiler alert on there is a secret. If you want to win in this
No,
industry, here it is.
yeah, I've been looking for it and
Figure
it's
out the
not
best way
around.
to service your client. If you can
Yeah,
service your client better than the next person, and I promise you, it's not by doing the same thing they're doing, right? Just find a better way to
yep,
service your client and you will win the business. Like that's the secret.
that's right.
If you're looking at everybody else to figure out how you should service your client best, you're looking at the wrong person. You need to look at
That's
your
right.
client, listen to them. Jeff Shapiro last month talked about going on a listening tour, which I thought was a great idea.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So one point I want to share that you've inspired me to recall. I don't remember which SI executive forum this was at now, but it was on the Breaking Through panel with the group of the co-contributor authors that were part of Mike Cleveland and Barry Ason's book Breaking Through that talked about the agencies that went north of 100 million in revenue.
Hmm.
And they amazing insight, but it was amazing when they said if there was one thing that you could have done differently, what would it have been? I think
Hmm.
4 out of 5 people on the panel said we would have actually implemented learning and development earlier because as soon as
Yes.
we implemented it, then we started to scale. Then we started to
Yes.
create our own best practices internally, memorialize them, create our own standards, and then train the organization on the way that we work in a consistent way. And it was that led to the
Yes.
scale of the organization. And these are companies that were like 200 million in revenue. And they're like, I didn't do
Yes.
it I did it at like 120 and I would have done it at 50 if I would have known what it was going to do. So, um,
Music to my ears.
yeah, so
Yes.
the titans of industry are affirming that, yeah, we need to focus on developing our people, which is what I kind of want to close out today with is you've got you've got a blueprint, which for me, I'm a kind of a row and column kind of guy. I like
Yeah.
structure, so I like blueprints. And you have a blueprint for empowering leaders, and that's where we started. That was
Yes.
your answer to
Yes.
improve to increase the value. So
Yeah.
can you just walk me through, not a sales pitch, that's not allowed here, but
Nope.
like what are some of the tenets of this blueprint that would be
Yeah.
tactical that leaders could do to really empower their people to do better?
Yeah. So the blueprint is my security stacking blueprint. And to your point, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about kind of like the high level, what is security stacking. Instead, what I will say is using security stacking to build confidence amongst your leadership team and focusing on the activities that will drive productivity, engage the workforce, and improve work culture. That's really what it is. And so what I focus on when I work with my organizations is I say, okay, all right, so you're telling me that your problem is, low client satisfaction scores. I don't know, whatever it is, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on what are they saying? So it's kind of like that listening tour concept.
Yeah.
What are they saying? And then what we're going to do is we're going to use security stacking to build confidence amongst your team in terms of, okay, so it started at the very beginning. How can we confidently negotiate? How can we confidently increase relationships between departments? How can we confidently have internal difficult conversations? What are the steps? Because we can't look at security stacking as this, okay, we just do these 3 things, and the 3 things are intentionality, evidence, and action. But
Yeah.
really, how do we break that down into very specific skills that we need? How can we confidently make good decisions? How can we confidently use AI? How can we, those are the things that I focus on with security stacking. So that is the blueprint. It's really just breaking down let's say the 5 areas that we identified that led to this, very low satisfaction amongst clients. And then we apply security stacking in those 5 areas: decision making, difficult conversations, negotiations, sales, AI, whatever it is. We break it down to make it very easy to consume for the leader, and we look at its intentionality. So what is that goal? What is that focus? I need to get better. We need to get better overall with negotiation, because clearly, that's kind of where it started for us. Okay, great. That's great. And then we say, okay, well, have we done this before? And the answer is always going to be yes, we've done this before.
Yeah.
We've done it well. So let's look for evidence. Let's look at past clients where this worked out really well. And what can we learn from those those past clients when it went really well? So that's kind of the evidence space. And then action. Okay, what are the simple daily activities that we can do on a daily basis? So we're not going to look at it big because who wants to do that? That's intimidating, that's
Yeah.
scary, and I can't do it. But we can look at it in very small, easy to consume steps on a daily basis. And then we rinse and repeat intentionality, evidence, action over and over. And then we apply that to negotiation. We apply that to the internal difficult conversations. We apply that to building better relationships amongst our internal teams, especially different departments. So immediately coming out of the gate, I think about the relationships between back office and front office, sales and recruiting. So have you heard that before, Dan?
Yeah,
That we
once
need
or
to
twice.
improve?
Once
You
or twice.
sure?
It's a kind
Yeah.
of a
So this
common
is
theme
not
I've
brand
heard.
new
Yeah.
stuff for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just that's how I use security stacking. And I'll tell you a quick story. I talked about this on the socials the other day, but I was working with this healthcare staffing company, one of the top organizations in the country, and they were just really struggling. And it was kind of like our teams are not that great, or this, or whatever. And really, when I broke it down for them and I said, okay, let's apply security stacking to this. What are the areas? And we spent a year, all of 2024. Okay. And I had a call with them in January. I started working with them in May of last year. So maybe not a full year.
Right.
And the VP of operations said, Therese, I got to tell you something. She said, in January of 2024, our audit scores, we were averaging at 16%.
Ooh.
That's 16 out of 100%, just FYI,
Yeah, that's
right?
that's real bad.
Yeah. And she said, Therese, because we've been doing the steps that you showed us, in January of 2025, our scores are averaging 82%.
Nice.
That is crazy. I literally said, I'm making a t-shirt that says that. But
But
they went from
it's not
16 to
crazy,
82%.
right? It's just following
Yeah,
a
it's
system
the
consistently,
following. Yes. And that's
Consistency is key.
right. And that's why I go back to my initial answer when I said, when you asked me, what can we do? I truly 1000% believe if we empower our leadership teams, it will absolutely impact the bottom line.
Oh,
No, 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 no. There's just no way, no other way to say that. Bottom line, 16 to 82% is
speaks for itself.
uh, exactly, exactly. So again, that's my very long-winded response to your question. As you can tell, I am very passionate about this. I do believe that if we lean in on our leadership teams and we really, really pour into them, we can see so much success in our industry. And a lot of the conversations that we're having right now can completely disappear if we really, really invest in our leadership teams. And we're in an exciting slash scary time. It really depends on your perspective, but there's so much that we can do to just overall improve in our industry. And it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
I agree. I see it the same way. It is an exciting time. We're going to face a little bit of turbulence, and if you don't develop your
Yes,
leaders to be able to navigate that and create
absolutely.
that sense of security and confidence for their people, then your organization will get shook.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely. Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
I love it. Hey, if any of our listeners out here are interested in connecting with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Are you going to be at any of the conferences coming up this season to where they might be able to meet you in person? What's where you?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm always on LinkedIn, and it's really just my name, the very long Therese Gopaul-Robinson. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one on LinkedIn. My website also is theresegr.com, and it's TheresegR.com. So those are the two big ways that you can reach out to me. I
Awesome.
probably will be at Staffing World.
Yeah.
For sure. And so definitely that's one way that you can reach out to me. And hopefully we can connect at Staffing World later on in the fall. But I'm considering a couple of other conferences, but Staffing will be the one that you'll find me for sure.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. There's a lot out this year, and folks, if you're
Yes,
not connected with Therese, I encourage you go connect with her on LinkedIn, follow her content. She is one of the best and brightest minds out there, especially in the realm of leadership development and improve your organizational health. And Yeah, Therese, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to future collaborations.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dan. And just a quick word. I absolutely love what you're doing. You are making such an impact. Truly, you're
Thank
making
you.
such an impact. And you and I met, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when I sat down with you and you took time to sit down with me and you gave me like this like 10-minute coaching session that really shifted so many things for me. And you're
Uh,
just an incredible asset. And I admire you and I look up to you. And this for me is an incredible moment to hopefully add value to what you're doing and just keep doing what you're doing because it's desperately needed in our industry and I appreciate you. So I just had to say that.
I really appreciate you saying that. And my mantra is the best thing that we can all do is pay it forward. And I know that you're off to an event to inspire some women
Yes, in
entrepreneurs and
Asheville.
pour into
Yep.
them and help lift them up. So I
Yes.
definitely
Yeah.
wish you well in that and hope you crush that event.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you. Thank you.